Welcome, everybody, to the Big Book Roundtable and the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at people from everywhere, every place, every kind, every faith, every whatever you are. We are here for you, and we try to keep this fellowship in a way that is helpful to everybody. My name's Justin B. I'm a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God and a multidisciplinary addict living in miraculous recovery. I'm joined by David G. and Nikki M. around this virtual roundtable from all over North America, and we're grateful to be with you today. David, why don't you take just a minute and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. Thank you for your service. Nikki, always good to be in the circle with you. I'm David G. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts from Oklahoma here in the USA. I've been given the gift of sobriety since August 8th of 1994, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Nikki, come say hi and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nikki M., and I'm a grateful member of many fellowships. I've been here for way over a decade now, 13 years. And I'm just, we record this podcast, and I learned so much. My brains are exploding from the last session we did. So I'm just excited about this next session. Love being here. Thank you, Justin.
And thank you, Nikki. Yeah, and about that last session, if you did not listen to that last session, which was part 10 of Into Action, I would recommend you go back and listen to that, because this one we're going to be following up on it with just a couple of more paragraphs of reading and diving into this because well, I'll just speak for myself. That was a really powerful, and for Nikki, it was a really powerful experience for us. And I'm assuming David had one too. He did. I know it. Anyways, so I'm going to continue reading in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the 4th edition. I'm on page 82, and today we're just going to cover 2 paragraphs, starting on towards the top of page 82. Perhaps there are some cases, and just that's into the second paragraph there, which ends with would perhaps be dead. So grab your big book, grab a highlighter, marker, pen, paper, anything you need to take notes and get into action after we get done with this and take some real action in your life and in your recovery. Here we go with the reading. Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. It may be that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Each might pray about it, having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind. Keep it always in sight that we are dealing with that most terrible human emotion, jealousy. Good generalship may decide that the problem be attacked on the flank rather than risk a face-to-face combat. If we have no such complication, there is plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say that the only thing he needs to do is keep sober. Certainly he must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't. But he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he has so shockingly treated. Passing all understanding is the patience mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today, would perhaps be dead. All right. So we're building on this last episode's recording here, and there's some really powerful things in these 2 paragraphs. So let's get into that. David, why don't you walk us through them and dive deep with us?
Sure, absolutely, Justin. Perhaps there's some cases where the utmost frankness, which we're talking about blunt honesty here, is demanded. And there are going to be a few cases like that. Remember, when we go through our 8-step list with our sponsor, we're going to find out where those cases are. We're going to stay away from the ones that aren't. We're going to attack the ones that are. And I love this. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. We need to be dependent upon God here. I had a lady come to me one time after a meeting, and she said, you know, my one of my sponsees has been having an affair on her husband, and I have instructed her to go to him and tell him and start clearing this up. I said, you a damn fool. And I brought her right here to page 82. And I said, no outsider, write your name up above that, can appraise such an intimate situation. You can't do that. You're going to drop something in on that man that he absolutely does not deserve. and you want to do it so she can eradicate a little guilt and shame and go on living her life. Bullshit. What's that going to do to their children, to their family, to everything? That is to be dealt with in a very specific way. God will be the guide there, not me, not her, not you, not anyone else. So it may be that both will decide. Now, this is a decision. Anytime we see that word in the big book, it means a decision is about to be made. And it better be made in the way of good sense and love and kindness, which is God, because if it's not, then it's going to be made by self, and there's going to be a lot of hurt. So let bygones be. Here's a direction. Each might pray about it, each, either together or apart, but that is a direction. But if I'm going to pray about something like that with somebody else, I need to have their uppermost happiness in mind, not how I can get my ass out of this sling and start feeling a little better so I can move on with my life. My sponsor told me there's some things you're going to get to live with here, David, for the rest of your days, buddy. And he was absolutely right. There's times that this stuff comes up and it hurts. And you know what? I have to keep my mouth shut. He said, you're going to have arguments that come up. And when those come up, you need to sit back and keep your mouth shut because you're the one who brought all this shit on anyway. But it says, keep in sight that we're dealing with that most terrible human emotion, jealousy. The big book says that there will be a table prepared for us before our enemies. And I always thought that meant like Randy and Joe and Frank and Bill and Susan. And no, it's jealousy. It's selfishness. That table's not built somewhere in the future. It's built now. We see it in step 10 whenever we follow it. And I love this. Good generalship may decide the problem be attacked on the flank, which means from the side rather than to face to face. So good generalship is reinforcing the principle of avoiding retaliation and argument. That's all good generalship is. But it goes on to say, if you don't have those kind of complications, there's a lot that you can do at home. And man, it is. This has become the best practice I have is in our home here. I just love it. Love her. I love this. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say the only thing he needs to do is keep sober. Well, that's what that upper paragraph is completely talking about. There's a difference between staying sober and recovering from addiction. There is a big difference in that. So we've talked about that from day one. Absolutely, we have to stay sober. Not only get sober, we have to keep sober and stay sober, or there's not going to be any home at all. That's a promise in our book here. But look what it says, but, and this changes the entire paragraph. That's a long way from making good to the wife or parents who you've treated in such a shocking way for so long. So patience, mother's wife, they have a lot of patience with us. It's just something that it's a beautiful step, but as I said in the last episode, you got to be very careful here or you can bring about so much harm by going in there unarmed with the facts, going off of somebody's untreated alcoholism that's just sober inside of the rooms, trying to tell you how to make amends. I tell you, I've done that for many years over, and it would bring temporary relief. But it wasn't until I really, really began to try to right the wrong. And not only after I made the amends, then I had to start living as if. I had to start living as if. And that's what I do every day in my home, in my marriage, in my occupation. I've never taken from this company. I've never done any of that with them. But I live by the principle that I'm not going to do that. And in doing that, that's making a living amends to all the others that I did. So there's so much that we get to do. We get to practice and continue to make these amends and set right these wrongs. If you want a true relationship with God, if you want peace, you want love, you want compassion, you want understanding, fellowship, brotherhood, all these things, get right with your brother. And it starts at home, or it did for me, and home occupations and affairs. That tells me how to live my life on page 18. That also tells me how to make amends right there as well. That is a guide right there. Those few little words are more powerful than anyone ever realizes in the big book. So anyway, my life is in such a good place today. My marriage, I'm so thankful for it. We don't bring up that old hurt and all that shit. It's just, it's time to walk on, to move past. And that's what we do every day. Yesterday, hell, we exercised. We hung out all weekend, spoke at a conference. I mean, it's just things are good. And I don't know. I'm just eternally grateful for what's happened to me here. Thank you, Justin.
And thank you for sharing those miracles and that amazing stuff there, David. Nikki, why don't you take us through those couple of paragraphs and share with us some of the things that stick out to you?
Thank you so much. And David, I just love you. I love your wife. I got to get down there and meet her, this miracle woman. And, this is an exact instructions. Okay. So everybody, we're getting into a dance here because in our last episode, we reread, so do we tell her or not? In this sense, it's saying utmost frankness is demanded. So each individual situation must be assessed with a clear mind. My sponsor says it takes two to see one. See, he's pushing his clear perception on me through the book. I'll push my clear perception on my sponsees through the book. But you just saw we have a bunch of different instructions. So take your time. No outsider, Nikki. I just put my name there. David told me to. Can appraise such an intimate situation. Everybody, the big book just constantly repeats itself. I use a workbook. Justin, you know about it. I think it's in the show notes or it's on the Noodle podcast. It's a condensed version of the exact instructions of the big book because most of this is repeated. We read on a previous page, on page 69, we do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. Again, we're repeating it here on page 82. We do not. Who is the properly appointed authority for my love life, my sex life, my intimacy? Is God. It's God, not my mother, not my daddy, not my neighbor. It's God. Okay. And there's so many key words in here. A good sense, loving, kindness. And it says, let bygones be bygones. On page 124, I always jump ahead and jump around. It's literally going to tell me that my past is my greatest asset. You guys have been with me on my most recent emotional blackout with my guy. It was, I was afraid he's never going to speak to me again. You know what that situation has done? It's been the greatest teaching tool for me as a sponsor, as a human, even as a mother. I've told my daughter, put your relationship first. David just took us there. Respective homes, occupations, and affairs in that order. Because Nikki was doing it with everybody else, then my occupation, and then my home was last. That's not what our book says. And as David keeps, and you too, Justin, you guys keep sharing your miracles of family and grandchildren and partnership. I want it. My old belief system was, I'm an independent woman. I don't need that. Now it's like, no, I'm a woman of values. I'm a woman of God. I don't think like that anymore. So, and here, other one's happiness the utmost in mind. See, I have to keep in sight. There's an instruction, people. This is an instruction book that we're dealing with jealousy. And if I'm jealous, I'm selfish. You roll into it. If I'm jealous, then I'm greedy. And if I'm greedy, then I'm dishonest. Then I'm inconsiderate. Then I'm lustful. Then I'm resentful. It's all, then I get rude. Then I get arrogant. Then I get more selfish. Then I start gossiping and slandering. It's called the green-eyed monster for a reason. Anyway, we'll jump down to sometimes we hear, and again, at home, everybody put your home life first. Because when you're in your bed dying, you're not asking for your Louis Vuitton shoes or your brand new motorcycle, Harley Davidson. You're looking for your family. You're looking for the ones who love you. And so, yeah, we hear an addict say the only thing they need to do is, I'm sober, Nikki. I'm sober. Yeah, but you're sleeping with every newcomer. You have a baby in your belly. You're scrolling your life away on porn. But I'm sober. And that was me. I'm not sleeping with anybody's husband. I'm not obsessed about money, but I'm biting the head off my lover for looking at me the wrong way. But I'm sober. I must keep sober. David went through that, or I'm not going to have a home. I love this. And the book repeats it 1,000,000 times. I exaggerate. That's a character defect. It repeats it a few times. That we are a long way. We have a long period We're unthinking if we just think, right here, sobriety is not enough. We have to, whom we shockingly treated. There's a key word. I'm in Al-Anon. That's how I came in the rooms. Look at me, I miss Al-Anon. No, Nikki, you were managing, martyring, manipulating, mothering, which was leading to murder, she wrote. That's all I want to do is murder the whole world. But I'm so nice. No, Nikki, you're shockingly treating everyone, you psycho. Now, I love this too. I want to go here real quick. Passing all understanding is patient mothers and wives. I'm a patient daughter because my mother's living in my home forever because of this disease of alcoholism. See, this is what being this is what it will do for a family. I could have told my mother, that's your second husband that's dead from alcoholism. You can't live with me. Figure it out. But new reborn Nikki says, no, you're going to take my master bedroom. I'm going to make sure you are totally set up with the greatest life. I'm not going to move to Luxembourg today. I'm going to stay here with you, and we're going to make sure you're okay. And I'm going to make sure that my family's okay, because I have a long way of making good to the family, And some of it's by omission. I wasn't there. I didn't really harm them. It was just not being there. That's why I'm caring for 96-year-old auntie. And she doesn't want to go anywhere. Love you guys.
Thanks, Nikki. David, a question I have for you. You spend a little bit of time talking about that flank approach, the good generalship, the flank approach versus the face-to-face. Do you have any examples that you can share on when it would be good for the flank approach and when it would be good for the face-to-face?
Yeah, I shared in the last episode an amends that I'd made with my son. And that was one that definitely had to be face-to-face. Now, there's other ones, that I've had to make with women that were married to friends of mine. And it was better for me to come to that amends from the side, so to speak. I needed to just kind of come to the side of all of that and just say, look, I was so wrong in what I done. I need you to know that I know that I was wrong. And I need to be able to make that right. However, but I think that I would have risked face-to-face combat had I done that. Also, another way of doing that, there was a guy that was in our meetings, and he was a good friend of mine, and we did a lot of ceremonies. I introduced him to the ceremonial lodges in the native ways, and he just absolutely loved them. And we built one at his home. That's a long, long story, but anyway, toward the end, I was really active in my addiction, and I started getting mean. I started just taking over the place. Well, it was his home, not mine, And so I threatened him. I just told him, you know what? I get violent whenever I'm in my disease. That's always been so. I've spent a lot of time in jail over that, and so I threatened him, and he knew I was serious. Well, I seen him at a speaker meeting one night. We held an end of the month eating speaker meeting at our group, and I approached him and tried to make amends, but he wouldn't accept it. He just said, I'm afraid of you. I'm tired of the way you treat me. Please just leave me alone. Don't ever see me anymore. And he just wouldn't come back to the meeting. So when I went through this process in 2019, one of the things that they had me to do was to send him a letter. We're going to see those instructions probably in the next episode or two. But for me, that's how I had to come from the side rather than risk face-to-face combat. I had to send him a letter. And what happened is he didn't respond to that letter. But I started to see him show back up at the meetings. He wasn't scared anymore. He knew that I wasn't going to hurt him. I'd made it very clear in the letter. I would stay away from him. I wouldn't bother him. I just made amends. Now, after we left that group, a year or two later, he bumped into my wife out at Walmart, at our local Walmart. And he was pretty nervous at first. He said, "Is David with you?" And she said, "No, he's working. He's away." And he said, "I just want you to know that you guys are welcome to come back anytime, do ceremony at my home. I would love for you to come." That's huge. That's huge. she respectfully told him that, we just wouldn't be doing it anymore, that we appreciated the friendship through the years, but we'd like to just keep it right where we was. So what happened was I had attacked that from the side rather than face hand-to-hand combat. And that's just a couple of examples of many. So I hope that answers the question, Justin.
Yeah, thank you so much, David, for giving those examples. I think that's really powerful and really cool examples. Nikki, so you talked about, and this is something that's come up a couple times in this meeting, the home, occupation, and affairs in that order. Talk to us a little bit more about the importance of making sure that that home and my family and home comes first before occupation and affairs when it comes to these relationships and, well, making amends.
Thank you. Justin, I want to just tell you too, you're an excellent listener. Like the questions you asked David and me, and that's a skill, everybody out there. Like I sometimes drift out and get squirrely watching the squirrel out my window. So thank you, Justin. And the question, Nikki, remember it, don't get squirrely. Here it is. I've been programmed. I have been programmed, right? Like I have to reprogram myself. Does that make sense? Like I've been, one more time the question, because I want to go to the programming.
Yeah, the home, occupation, and affairs. Why is it important to be in that order? Yeah.
Okay, I've been programmed. I was born in 1973. I was programmed that you don't need men, Nikki. I mean, go deep here with me, everybody. I'm an 80s kid, in the 90s. You don't need a family. You need a career, Nikki. Go deeper. This is the programming. And this is why in 2025, and I'm going to go on a little tangent, that like the homes are broken, that men, they broke apart the families. Like this is, go deeper. This is old programming. You don't need your family. You don't need kids, Nikki. I remember telling my daughter, don't be like me, Haley, don't be a single mother. And her dad was always there. Don't do this. You don't have kids, go get a career, be single. Now I'm watching all my friends who are 50, no kids, cat ladies going, I want a baby. And I'm like, well, you can have one. You can adopt one. Maybe we can find you a dad that's going to have grandkids and get a baby that way because I give them hope. But this is old programming. That's why we're coming in here to get new programming. My old programming was, I don't need God. That religious stuff is weird. Spirituality, you guys are airy-fairy. My new program is, this is what this is all about. Like you understand. So why did the home become through this program, through this 12-step program? We urge you to try our program. My old programming's broken. We've used the example before, Justin. They don't make pagers anymore, unless I guess you're a drug dealer or a doctor, but you have a cell phone now, right? So remember when you guys used to pull over your pay phones? Justin, you never did. You've never tried drugs, but I remember. And you'd have to pay they don't have that anymore. The new programming is family's cool, kids are cool, values are cool, putting God first is cool. So that's why through this system, through this program, my new David, thank you, my new belief system, my new attitudes, it's all about family life, family, because they convinced me that I didn't need a family. They convinced me I needed money. I needed tight tits. I needed a tight ass. I need a lot of money. Spin around a pole. You don't need a husband. Single women do it. Those are lies from the pit of hell, and I'm awake. And if you have a different opinion, go talk to your sponsor.
Excellent. Thank you so much for walking us through these things. Let's go with takeaways. David, you want to start off with a takeaway that you have from our conversation and reading today?
Yeah, just the freedom that comes from this. I know we've been talking a lot about, the drama and all of the stuff that comes as a result of this. But, the reward is so much greater than any of this. And I love the question that you asked, Nikki, because, our book says it over and over, since the home has suffered more than any place else, it's only fitting that's where, this thing is going to begin. And, I'm just paraphrasing, of course, if you read pages 122 to 124, it'll give you a really good idea on that question. But I love amends because, and it's a shame that I've had to make more amends from untreated alcoholism than I ever did from active addiction. And that is the truth, because we get sick in here and we hurt a lot of people. Yeah, but I'm sober. Bullshit. You're just not drinking. You're not sober. You're just not using. You're just not acting out. You're not sober. That's a long way from being sober. So anyway, that's my takeaway, Justin. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Nikki, how about you? What's a takeaway you have?
Mom, dad, sister, brother, son, daughter, cousin, aunt, uncle, family. I love you.
Thank you, Nikki. And I'm just going to read a couple of lines from our reading today as my takeaway. And I'm going to read this with the most gratitude that I can conjure up here. Passing all understanding is the patience mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today and would perhaps be dead. Just gratitude for this life that I live and for the people that God has brought into my life. And you too, David and Nikki, are among those people that I am so grateful for, that have helped me continue to walk this path. Now, everybody else, come join with us. Let's walk this path together. Let's trudge this happy and amazing and adventurous road of happy destiny with us. So work it. You are worth it.